All right, everybody, it's Tom here with Hidden Beats, and today we are talking with Mike Ayley of Mariana's Trench, now working on his solo project. How are you doing today?
I'm great. Man, we're getting some fall weather, but it's sunny and I just went out for a walk, so I'm feeling fresh and crispy.
Yeah, I this is my favorite time because I'm a pale white kid who burns, so the sun sucks for me.
Yeah, it's hard in the face, man, when you're out in the sun a long time. I like to just get a little bit here and there, and then in the autumn and winter, I just go out for hours.
And my dogs are winter dogs, like that's all they do is play in the snow, so I can be
Cool.
stuck out there for hours with them usually.
That's nice.
So we're here to talk a bit today about music and your new solo project, Golden Hour. But let's get started with kind of an early intro into how you got into music.
Sure. So beginning days for me, I went to school at a school that had music programs. I'm not sure. I feel like that's an vanishing thing in some schools, but we had school. It was part of the curriculum, so it wasn't a foreign topic. By the time I was in grade six, I joined a marching band because I had a crush on a girl in the marching band. But while I was in there, I learned to play trumpet. Never got the girl. I was also only like 11, so who cares?
Yeah.
And then in high school, like early high school, played trumpet again in the band class there. Started like sneaking down to the basement when nobody was home and like borrowing my brother's keyboard and bass because I thought he was being bad, but I just really wanted to play these instruments and make music, try to figure out songs and stuff. So it went from there. And then flash forward a couple of years, and I was hanging out with one of my buddies, and I'm like, "Man, we're not very cool. Let's start a band." And he's like, "Okay, let's do it." And I said, "What do you want to play, bass or guitar?" And he said, "Guitar." I said, "Great, I'll play bass." And that's sort of the end of that. Although he and I never started a band, and he just collects guitars, and I pursued the path.
hmm So I mean, yeah, Pursue the Path, Mariana's Trench is hugely popular band. How how has that been?
Um, Pretty awesome. Honestly, I was just listening to there's another podcast I listened to, and it was like Nickelback on there, and hearing their story makes me think back to our story because it wasn't one of those quick overnight things. It was really step for us. From putting out an album, or first of all, recording an album and having a release date. And they're like, "Oh, we're gonna push the release date. There's not enough interest," and there wasn't. There was no interest. 6 months later, we'd done some opening gigs for bands, and there was a little bit. And then I remember they put the album out and only put so many copies in the stores. And I mean, some of it, the stores have to be willing to stock it. But we're like, if there's only that many in the stores, a few thousand, we're like, how can we sell music if it's not available? Because this was still physical sales era.
hmm
But we had a small army of very passionate fans who'd been contacted by us on MySpace and were coming to our shows, and we were doing 10 people, 20 people, 40 people, 80 people over the course of one summer in Southern Ontario. We went from Vancouver to out there. My dad was working out west, let us use his house, so we just played all these shows for $50 a show, right? Almost nothing, but the audience was growing. And then they became our little army. We gave them something to work with, and they believed in us. Thank the Lord. So our audience built, and then they would call and request to have those CDs in the stores. They would call and request us on Much Music, and then Much Music really embraced Mariana's Trench, thank God, because without them, I wouldn't have happened. First two videos had zero radio traction other than a couple stations here and there. And then Much Music still put the videos on, but just like in medium rotation, not on the countdown or anything. The first two videos. But we were getting such strong support when Shake Tramp came out, our third video, that fans were requesting us to be at the Much Music Video Awards, and they were like, "You guys are getting more requests to appear than anybody." But we were clearly going to be the smallest known act at the thing, but those passionate fans, and they were like making petitions and send handwritten petitions going around the city of Edmonton and stuff and sending them to radio stations. And I tell you, Shake Tramp is a pretty hard rock song, and it got into the top 30 of like pop radio, which shouldn't have happened.
Mm-hmm.
But our fans willed it, and we persisted playing shows for nothing and going into radio stations ourselves and like taking the Jack Daniels off our rider. I'm like, man, this is yours. Can you just play our song? And a lot of them were like, get out of here. And some of them were like, sure, man. And some of them we made great friends with program directors. But it sort of set us up for the next album when we released Cross My Heart. We realized also in between those two albums that we were too rock for pop, too pop for rock, because that's so we sort of catered the sound a little bit. We're like, well, a little less distortion, a little less screamy, and keep all the melody, because that's sort of what we're doing, melodies and harmonies, and that was the real core of what we did. So we put out Cross My Heart for Masterpiece Theater, and that one like really connected. In fact, I remember when we were touring the album release in Ontario, like just before the album even comes out, we're doing all the press stuff, and we found out that the single had gone gold.
Okay.
And we're like, oh, our first gold single, that's so cool. And then we contacted Universal, who was like the distributing label for us. And oh my god, my thing's annoying. And they were, we're on the phone with them, like, why don't you just wait another 2 weeks, because it's going to be platinum, like you're selling 10,000 digital singles a week or something like that. And we're like, oh my god, we're gonna have a platinum single in 2 weeks. So and we did, so that was sort of the beginning. And then Alta myself also did really well, even better at radio, and that's sort of where it just became a thing where we just kept on the path. And Ever After really blew it up, from going from clubs and theaters to arenas in Canada. And that's when we started the US sort of war that we've really built up to there as well.
Yeah, Shake Tramp was my first kind of introduction also, probably like a lot of people, and I still have tracks on my go-to playlist now from you guys that
Cool.
I'd like to keep in the rotation. So I'm definitely a fan, and it's definitely fun getting to talk to you. And we actually, if I'm not mistaken, with your Christmas track you did, we actually did a written interview with you, I think, when that first came out on my list.
Yeah, maybe. We've done a couple of Christmas tracks. I don't think we did any press last year, so it could have been for that first one.
Well, I think the one with your wife, actually.
Yeah, so she and I, though, we're doing our third one. We have a third one coming out this year, which is awesome. It's like we decided to do like a pop rock one.
Okay.
We recorded it in a couple of days, and then I edited it for 65 years because I'm not good at the recording software, but I want it to be perfect. But yeah, we might have done that. We didn't do any press in the second one because we were just about to have a baby, and we're like, there's no time.
Yeah, so I'm actually 4 weeks out from a baby myself, and this is you're my last interview I think I have on my calendar right now.
That's incredible. It's amazing. And at this point, it really could be any time, but hopefully it's in that 3 to 5 week range.
Yeah, that's why I'm cutting mine off now, so I can do that.
Yeah, I tell you, man, the first 4 to 8 weeks, all you need to know that is the first 4 to 8 weeks are really hard, and just make it through that, and it gets easier all the time. Is this your first kid?
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, it's so hard, the sleep stuff, the change at first, but it does get easier. After 4 weeks, it starts to get easier every day. This is more of a personal thing, but it's the best advice the doctor gave us in the hospital. Like, just make it through the first 4 weeks. It'll start to get easier.
Yeah, I helped raise my niece too, so I have a bit more knowledge than that, and my wife's a bit newer, but we're also my mom is on standby basically for any extra help needed.
Amazing.
So we're pretty set there, but
good for you.
I'm excited, and trying to organize everything with all the stuff going on in the house has been interesting.
Yeah, that's right. Renovations and a new baby. Oh my god.
Yeah, so hopefully this week is the end of that too, and get all that sorted out.
Great, good luck.
The main reason we're here today, though, is your solo project, and you credit a lot of that effort with the World Marianas Trench has kind of evolved for you. So you want to give me a little bit of insight on what the solo project's about?
Yeah, it's weird. It's definitely, it would be weird if there wasn't a musical influence from Marianas Trench on Mike A music, because I've spent so much time in that project. And playing those songs and loving those songs. While we were in the COVID lockdown, we moved into a new place, so we had a little more space, which is great. And then the first thing I did was buy a brand new video game and sit down and eat everything in the world and play video games for 3 months. And I was like, man, this is pretty cool. Now, when do we get back to work? And then it was like nothing was changing. And Josh like, we can't really get in the studio and stuff right now with all the COVID stuff. So I'm just going to I'm just going to do a little side thing. And then I was like, that's it. To Emily, I'm like, we're doing a Christmas song. It's like, if nothing's happening, I'm not going to sit around doing nothing any longer. So it actually started with the Christmas song. And then I had to learn how to make a demo, sent it to the record label, and they're like, okay, well, let's re-record everything, but that's cool. We'll do this song. And then I just had the materials to do work. And I was reading books in the morning and getting ideas and like going upstairs and starting to record songs. And then all of a sudden I had a few of them. I had 5 of them, 6 of them. And I was like, started sending them to the label. I'm like, hey man, what do you think? They were really bad. Like the recordings were really bad. The songs were there. But the quality of recording was so bad that the producer, when they said I could do it, was like, so what's this supposed to sound like? You know, like, and he was very, very kind about it, which is nice, because I probably would have hurt my feelings because I was still working hard. But so I just started recording the songs, and then more of a part-time process in spring of 2021 started recording the 5 songs that are on that EP. But I think as far as the Marianas Trench influence, it's things like a lot of focus on melody. Josh will say things when people ask him about songwriting, and his idea is, I want to make each part of the song, whether that's the chorus, the pre-chorus, bridge, verse, whatever, I want that part to potentially be somebody's favorite part of the song. You know, obviously you want the chorus to be everybody's favorite part, but it got me thinking about when I was writing. There's a couple songs. The Kaleidoscope is actually the last one to come out in about a week. And I had a chorus. I recorded it. I sang it all, did harmonies, and edited it and put it in. And then I was laying in bed one night. It was about 4 a.m. and I was like humming it. And I was like, it's not very good. It's okay. And I'm like, is it okay? And I'm like, it's okay. I wish it did more. And I was like, okay. And I got it at 4 a.m., went to the computer, highlighted all the vocals, delete, and went back to bed. Completely deleted. I was like, gone forever. That can never be the chorus. You can do better. I don't know what it is, but you can do better. And because I'm like, if that part can't be somebody's favorite part, mine, if it can't be mine, then it shouldn't be there. So that was a Josh sort of lesson that I picked up. Definitely going tons of vocals. I love having harmonies and choir kind of effects. And maybe some of that is from being in choir as a kid, but Mariana's manages to pull it off in pop music and have all these vocals all over the place. And it's something I probably wouldn't have considered had I not been in the band, how many vocals you can get away with and how effective they can be for setting this intense emotional and conflict and tension and payoff. And they're so useful.
Now, your process for like when you were putting this stuff together, did that, or I guess, how different was that from working with the band trying to do your solo stuff now?
Well, with the band, we would go to the studio, and Josh would usually have a song or a part of a song essentially written in his head and sometimes roughly recorded, and rough is better than most. And we would sit down and he'd start playing, what do you think of this? You know, that's cool, that's not cool, that kind of thing. But usually it was pretty cool. He's pretty gifted. And then when we would play our own parts, we would re-record either a synth bass and then do real bass and stuff like that. And then you sort of add your own touches, or what if we did this here and here, and try things out, right? But all I would do is sit on a couch and give opinions and then play bass when it was time to play bass and sing my parts. But I would go into the vocal booth, sing my parts, and leave. I would sit down, plug in my bass, tune it, and play. All of a sudden when you're at home, you're like, I've got to plug in my bass, but then I've got to plug in my bass to the system and have it come through and record a quality sound that is usable in the recording software. And I didn't know how to do that. I didn't even know what a preamp was when I was at home. Like, they're watching how-to videos, and they're all full of language I didn't understand. So I was looking up the words to see what the words meant that were helping me figure out something else. I was so far behind. So at first it was very tedious, but it's actually been really cool to kind of free up myself creatively, and I can spend as much time on things because I don't work as quickly as Josh. His brain can just process all these options at once. I like to play around, and sometimes I'll just record and just start playing with things and then delete it all because it sucks. But sometimes I'll be like, there's something right there. Let me look at that again. I'm like, okay, what if it wasn't quite like that and it was moved around a bit? Then I'll play it again, and all of a sudden it's like, oh my God, it just made this whole verse like twice as good, you know, or whatever. But I really, really love it. And going back to sort of the every part can be your sort of best part type of thing, or somebody's favorite part, I should say. when I'm doing the songs, there are other ones that I've thrown out or have sat there and I've tried to do them over and over. And I'm like, why is this song just suck every time I try to do it? I think there's something there. But if I'm recording and I either don't get like giddy and dancy or like heavily emotional during it, then there's probably nothing there. I think every song should hit you in one way strongly. And that's when I know I've got something. When all of a sudden I'm doing the process and I get to that point where like, oh, I think you got an idea, and then you work at it for 4 hours and throw in the parts, and all of a sudden, oh, there it is. Now the hard part is not losing it, because it's pretty easy to lose it while you're trying to enhance it, and that's sort of frustrating sometimes.
Is there a story you kind of want to portray with the stuff on Golden Hour? Like, do you trying to come from different aspects of yourself?
It's, I guess, I mean, I was gonna say it's not really about me, but I mean, they're all my feelings, right? So I guess in a way it's my perspectives on things. But the reason the EP is called Golden Hours, because first of all, it's this beautiful time of day, right? The sun is setting, the sky is this beautiful orange color. It's my favorite, but it's fleeting. It's golden hour and then it's gone. And it's this really precious part of the day, and you can see it changing right in front of your eyes. And it's kind of like life, where it's just going through your hands, and it's precious and you feel it. And it's also, even within a day, golden hour is that part where reconciliation occurs, where you woke up and there's that morning golden hour, which is like hope and potential and opportunity and excitement, and then I know I can, and all this kind of stuff, which I wake up almost every day with, like, today is going to be amazing. And by the time that sun sets, there's that reconciliation of the things that didn't occur, the things that fell through and feel disappointment, the things that did happen that you can check off the list and be really proud of, the surprises that came and totally changed the day. But there's this crazy mix of emotions. And that is what life is. It's not, I'm happy, I'm sad, I'm this. Because when you're happy because you are something, but you're also not something else. You're happy because you're not sad, in a way. And I think it's interesting to try to put a visual to that. And that's the only thing I could think of. So I chose that. And then the songs are about things like the Breathe Out one I was one of the first ones. It was the idea being, my son has the first worst day of his life. The one with the first time you ever like, my God, I didn't know I could hurt so much. What's the fucking point of being here? I don't want to live, that kind of thing. Because we've all probably had one of those.
Oh, for sure.
And my fear is, what if I'm not there for him when he needs me the most? Okay. That's the worst thing that could happen. So my son is 12. My daughter is like 11 months, but my son is getting to that age too, where you get high school and whatever. But what if I'm not there? I'm like, the least I can do is have this song for him to tell him it's going to be okay and you can get through it. And the one that just came out a couple days ago, Live in the Past Tonight, is like 4 a.m. the phone rings. I know what the news will be. Yesterday's gone a blank, not ready to deal with these things. First 4 lines. But it's about the day that is inevitably going to come where I get the phone call that my mother has passed or something like that. Or it could be the person you love that does not love you back, and that phone call in the middle of the night where they're like, I just don't want to be in this relationship. And you wish you never answered the phone, just so for a few more hours you could not have that as part of your existence. Yeah. You know, like there's things like that. So there are a lot of hypotheticals, but they're things I either worry about or dread, or like Kaleidoscope is about the day I met my wife, but I didn't know she was going to be my wife. And the day ended where we parted, and I never thought I'd see her again. And it ended up working out months later, but it's about that, you know, I cling as the seconds pass and you hold on to because this day can't last. Rose skin turns gold in the setting sun. So it's that thing, that setting sun, where it's the end of the day and time is running out, you know?
No, I like that. And so the golden hour is a term we use. I'm a photographer mainly also. So we use that a lot in there, and it's about that feeling and everything. So it's interesting to hear your perspective on that, because
that's where I first heard the term, is like shooting videos. We're trying to get this, we're going to get this shot during golden hour, when it's like golden hour, magic hour, whatever you want to call it. But it gave me a whole new perspective on it too.
And I like the story behind the songs and including that thought. And that's one of the reasons I like doing these type of interviews, because I get to learn more about you, about the reasoning behind things that you do. And it kind of gives me, at least, more of a a deeper connection with the music when I'm listening to it.
For sure. And yeah, I want more people to hear this stuff, because if you just listen sort of surface level, you just don't understand the stuff between beneath it. That's my baby.
Hmm. So I do have a few questions I like to ask everybody, but one of my writers wanted me to see if there was any fun stories you had from touring with the band, and crazy things happening, or I
Oh
guess even
man,
bad things happening.
a million stories,
Hmm.
and they can be really light or treacherous. But I remember we were about to go on one of our first tours of Canada, and oddly, the first show was in Grand Prairie, Alberta, which is northern Alberta, and we started in Vancouver. So, Matt Webb drives our GMC Safari minivan with our little U-Haul trailer or whatever it was around Vancouver and picks us all up one at a time from the different parts we live in. And then we start the drive, and we get an hour into the drive and go up the Hope Connector or whatever it was to start going north. And then the snow starts falling and it's crazy. And then next thing you know, we're like jackknifed on the highway, and people had to like help us straighten the thing. And we have to keep going because there's a show tomorrow. So whose show was the next day? I'm not sure. No, it was the next day. It was tomorrow. So then we're driving, and then we're get outside of Kamloops, and the roads are clear, and we're like, okay, time to make up some time. Got to hit the gas and go a little fast because we're way behind schedule now. And then we're 40 minutes out of Kamloops. I think it's called Barriere or something is the town. And this construction truck goes the opposite way, but off of its back comes a softball-sized boulder,
Oh, jeez.
rock, but it felt like a boulder right into our car. So the speed of impact was 80 plus 80, so 160 to 200 kilometers an hour. And Ian was driving, and I was in the passenger seat. And I remember seeing this thing coming and just being like, "Oh my god!" And you're just like, it felt like time paused for a second. Ian
Hmm.
luckily was smart enough to just close his eyes and keep going straight, so we didn't have a big accident. Brilliant. Yeah. But then we had to immediately turn around and go all the way back to Kamloops, and then get the window fixed. So there's a couple more hours. Although meanwhile, I did win $40 playing blackjack during that time. Nothing else to do, which was pretty cool. And then back on the highway, back up, driving. Now it's becoming nighttime. Then it's nighttime. Now it's midnight instead of getting where we want to go at 10 p.m. or 9 or 8 or whatever. And we're in Jasper National Park. And we're going up the road, and we see this car pulled off in the side, like in the ditch. We're like, oh my God, we got to stop and make sure this guy's okay. But the roads are really icy, which is why he was there. Mm-hmm. Get into the van, and I go over, and I guess we all went over, and hey man, you good? And he goes, yeah, I've got help coming. Don't worry about it. Thanks so much for checking. They'll be here anytime. And it's like, okay. So we get back in the van, and it's not going anywhere, right? So I guess Ian was probably still driving, and then Josh, Matt, and I got out and started like pushing, but it's uphill. It's pitch black in the park. There's no road lights, and it's really cold. So we're pushing and getting this thing going slowly, and finally Ian gets a little traction and then starts to go. We all start running, but I was like at the back. And then Matt and Josh jump in the van, and then I'm running after this thing in the middle of the park and run up the hill. The problem is you can see it getting further and further. And I'm like, I'm not going to catch up. Like I can't run faster than this, not in the cold, not with winter boots. And then the lights start getting dim, and I'm like, oh my God, I'm going to die. And then they're also realizing, they're like, he's not going to catch up. So they finally stopped. I got back in, my lungs were on fire. I guess we just went really slow, and Ian finally got traction that way, and we got going again. Had to stop in Jasper instead of making it all the way to Grand Prairie in a day. And I remember it was the weirdest thing. It was 3:30 in the morning. We stopped at this weird little ski lodge hotel, and said, do you guys have any rooms? And like, yeah, we've got one room, but you guys, we'll give it to you cheap because it's late, because we were poor. So that was a really nice convenience. Walked in the room, and I've never seen it before. One regular hotel room, 4 single beds.
Oh, wow.
It's the weirdest thing. And we're like, perfect. Everybody goes to bed and lays down, and we had to get up early. So literally closed your eyes. I swear, it felt like the second we closed our eyes, the alarm went off. Mm-hmm. We all just started laughing about how tired we were. It's like, I cannot believe we haven't even started this tour, first tour, and I'm this tired. Anyway, we got up, got in the van. Matt and I looked, this is before digital maps too, like paper maps.
Okay.
We couldn't afford a GPS. Like that was like our next big investment. And Matt and I are looking at the map. We're like, there's this squiggly road here. If between this road and we can cut it off, get rid of this whole hypotenuse here. Could be treacherous, but it might save us a lot of time. Let's go for it.
Yeah.
So we did, and we took this road, and it saved us hours. It worked out. We got to Grand Prairie early. This is the first promoter who ever got us hotel rooms. So we had two hotel rooms. We might have even each had our hotel room. It was crazy, but it was at least a bed of our own. Because before that, we were always sharing two guys to a bed when
Hmm.
we're opening up for other people and stuff. And I remember getting to the hotel room, and we all got there. Everybody's like going to take a nap, and the fire alarm went off in the
Oh God.
hotel. Anyway, the show was still a success.
Hmm.
We actually had a lot of fun, and it was a good story, but it was really just a test to see what you're made of right off the bat, and that's just nothing compared to some of the stuff we've had to go through.
Yeah, I mean, I guess you got to figure out if you can handle that, and why not do it early?
Right? Yeah.
Yeah.
When you're younger and more naive.
Hmm. So the first of my fun questions I have is, what's something on your go-to playlist that people wouldn't expect that you're listening to today?
I don't listen to all the time, but I save it for when I need it. I love "Oh Sherry" by Steve Perry
Okay.
because it's good groove. It's simple, it's light, but Steve Perry can really sing.
Hmm.
I really still like "The Killing Kind." I think it's the best song we've ever done. Whenever I rehearse it, it's the only song when I'm practicing at home that I keep turning the volume up as the song goes. Every other
Yeah.
song, it's practice. That's the one where I'm like getting into it, and then like all caught up by the end. Um, no, there's more. When we were doing this pop punk song, I really realized that I liked "Move Along" by All American Rejects. That song
Okay.
still
Yeah.
stands up to the test of time.
Yeah, that's a fun one. I think I actually have that on my playlist too. Yeah. So next question I have, this one's a good one. What's one thing that you think should be asked more in an interview that's not asked enough?
One thing that should be asked less is where did the band name come from?
Okay. I
But
mean, that makes
you
sense.
didn't
Yeah.
ask that. You didn't ask that because you clearly are aware of that. What should be asked more? I personally like when you hear the backstories, the making it part of the journey, like you asked early on. Those are the things that I find as a listener inspiring. Those are where you get to know what the people involved in the project are made of,
Hmm.
the battles they've had, they fought to accomplish what they have, and that's where you realize that people who are successful weren't necessarily overnight successes, and you don't. Sometimes you think if somebody's really successful, you're just like, oh my god, they had it so easy.
Hmm.
When you hear the backstory, you're like, it wasn't easy for probably any of the people, and the people who are like, you look like a guy like Justin Bieber or something. Maybe it came quick and young, but his life right now has got to be pretty intense, man. They can't go anywhere.
Yeah.
Like I would not want that.
Yeah. I mean,
So
it's pretty
it's
crazy.
paying your dues at the end, you know?
Hmm. Yeah, and I think a lot of people like I know for me, I'm not a musician. I mean, I played drums once upon a time and saxophone stuff, but I like to hear the stories that of how you guys came up and talk to musicians and kind of get their feelings on just how things went to where you are now. So it's
Yeah.
interesting to hear that stuff.
Yeah, it's fun. And
Hmm.
everybody's stories got similarities and uniquities. Is that the right word? But you know, things that set them apart and things that make them the same. And I like looking at both of those.
Yeah, exactly. Now, what's one piece of advice you were given coming up that's really kind of held tightly that you've looked at this whole time?
When we were recording our first album, Dave Genn, who was the guitar player from Matthew Good Band and now in 5440, was the producer. He gave us a lot of advice. He was literally our mentor. We were on tour and we'd be like talking about situations, and he would tell us comparable stories that he had gone through and where the band ended up. He's, we stayed at that same hotel and it was awful, and I was crying. It was my birthday and I actually cried, and 2 years later we were playing for 25,000 people in Parliament Hill, like that kind of thing, and that it
Hmm.
kept us inspired. So having somebody to give you perspective and advice is nice. One particular piece of advice, and it's funny actually, it was echoed in that Nickelback featured podcast I was listening to yesterday. Um, with songwriting, especially, you should collaborate if you're collaborating. Not keeping your own ideas too precious because they're your own. Like Dave specifically said this in the studio before I heard that in that podcast, but it reminded me, you put all the ideas on the table. Once they're ideas on the table, they're nobodies. They're just ideas. And there's a
Dog just
pup.
came in, yeah.
And then just what's best for the song instead of worrying about what's mine.
Mm-hmm. No, that makes sense. And yeah, because a good idea doesn't help if it's not out there.
Yeah, or if you squash a good idea because it's not the dominant personalities, that's
Mm-hmm.
defeatist too. Like in that Christmas song, that's coming out too this year. Emily was like, "Hey, I've got these these four chords, and I've got this little bit of like boom, 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 boom." She had like 2 lines. And I was like, "Okay." I got home from a show in Newfoundland. I'm like, "Give me a day. I'll see what I can do. I know the genre, and I'll just go with it." Recorded this whole thing, and it's just the music and all these guitar parts and everything. And then she was like, "I don't like the chorus." I was like, "What do you mean? It's the chorus. That is the chorus." She's like, "No, but it is. I don't know. It just is. It's what's there." And she's like, "No, I don't like it." I'm like, "Fine. I guess I could just do the same chords and do something else. Give me an hour." And then we did it. I changed it, and I was like, "You're right. It's better. It's way better."
Yeah.
One of those things where you just have to hear it. And you're like, "Oh my god, I just can't quite hear everything. I need to record it and listen."
Yeah, and it's that second listen through sometimes also helps, and someone else's ears help. Like there's so many
Totally
things. Yeah.
invaluable.
Yeah. And so final question I have, and this is the most important one I think that to leave off on, is what inspires you to keep going in music? Like why do you do what you do?
With the Mike A stuff, I just feel like I didn't have a choice. I was ideas were coming, and if I didn't acknowledge them, I would be suffocating part of myself. So I had to go through that learning curve of getting the ideas down, and then even releasing them. I was like, "Do I want to do this or not?" I said, "I have no choice." With the Mariana stuff, it's a lot of fun. We are really good friends. It's fun to still have journeys where we're discovering new things, like playing Download Fest, which is a very out of place festival for us, but we played our set inside a tent of 5,000 people, which weren't there when the last band left. They all left and then all came back for our set. And to have that and share that with your friends, be like, "These people came to see our set in England, and there's thousands of them." Like, or going to Australia, we just went there and sold out 3 shows month in advance or whatever it was. So still having these victories gives you purpose, gives you landmarks and time, so your time has value. But it's also, I don't know, it's accomplishments feel good, you know. We still have all these goals, and to be able to continue to tick them off is very rewarding, because that's how it starts out. Is you have a goal, hit it. What's next? It was never we have to be there or here, and we never got a big loop, and it was just let's just keep, like I was saying at the beginning, one step at a time, and these are all steps in other countries to hopefully reach where we have reached in Canada.
For sure. And I mean, I think that's definitely a good way to think about it. You got more you want to add to the pile, so keep going.
And great music. The music, in my opinion, is actually getting better. I think the last album is the best album we've done. It's the most concise. And I think The Killing Kind, like I said before, is the best song we've ever done. So it's inspiring. And we've got a few for the next one that are in the works, and they're also really good. And the concept for the album is very cool. If we pull it off, which we usually do, it will be an interesting and fun show too.
Nice. Well, like I said, I'm a fan. Like I'm pretty sure I've got an autographed poster from
Nice.
Blues Fest that you guys did one year here. Like I have a whole bunch of memorabilia type of stuff, and Mariana's Trench is in there, and I'm a fan of the solo project. I got to listen to the whole thing, so
Thank you.
like the music is great, and I'm definitely looking forward to hearing more to come from you guys.
Thanks very much, man. Been a really good time.
Is there any kind of final notes you want to leave to fans before we sign off?
I'm happy. You know what? Actually, I will say one thing. When artists are trying to promote their songs on social media, they're working hard, and when they put that little click here thing on their story, just click it.
Yep.
It's not that hard to do, and it makes a huge difference to us.
It does. Yeah. The algorithms suck otherwise. So the more help, the better. Well, I appreciate the time that we got to spend together. Hopefully we'll get to have another conversation at
I would
some
love
point.
it.
And, looking forward to, I guess the release is on the 18th officially for the EP.
Yeah, next Tuesday, whatever that is. Yeah,
Um,
that is the 18th.
yeah.
Yeah,
So I believe this might be coming out either day before or the day of. So people will get,
cool.
we'll make sure to link everything so people can get a good taste of it all.
Great.
All
Good
right.
luck
Well,
with the child, Mr. Mount Pleasant.
yes, it's going to be fun and interesting and tiresome and all those fun things.
Yeah, I hope you have a smooth delivery process, and then as smooth as possible early stages. You can do
Mhm.
it.
Perfect. Thanks a lot. And I hope you enjoy the rest of your day.
Thank you.
All right. Bye.
Bye.